Hello everyone, this is Neha Tulsyan from Crescent Creation. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today's video is part of Not Too Shabby Shop design team video, and I've created this 8x8 layout using stamps from April box of the month from Not Too Shabby Shop along with some Lawn Fawn products. The April box of the month from Not Too Shabby Shop has some amazing products that reminds you to take care of yourself and have some me time. And it paired very beautifully with the Lawn Fawn pop-up desk. So let me show you how I created this. Here I'm first trimming off a white cardstock to prepare my base for my shadow box. I got this shadow box from Michaels and it's 8x8 size. So here I'm trimming my base 8x8 inches, and I'm using this very cheap paper trimmer that I got from Amazon. I've been using it quite lately and it's actually really good. For just under $10, it does the job pretty beautifully, and especially now that I'm making slimline cards more and more, it's more handy than the Trim Holes mini guillotine trimmer that I have. I've been reaching for this quite lately and I've been loving this. So here I'm trimming off my pattern paper for the wall. This is from the 6x6 paper pack from My Favorite Things. I will link all the products in the description box below so you can take a look. I'm trimming these to 1-inch strips, and now on my background panel I am creating a straight line to make sure when I'm gluing the strips I don't glue them crooked. I created a line but I thought that it was too high up, so I moved a little bit down and now I'm creating another line. And now using some liquid glue, I'll glue these strips to create the wall for my scene. I wanted to have this black and white scene going on with some pop of colors here and there. And I chose to cut the strips of this pattern paper and glue them a little far apart instead of gluing the whole pattern paper just as is, because I did not want it to look too much stripy. A little bit of gap in between each strips of pattern paper just made it look less busy. And here I did not measure while adhering these strips of paper. I just eyeballed them. Usually I'm not that kind of person who goes and measures everything while making cards. I just like to have fun, and measuring is not fun for me. So here, once done, I'm trimming off the excess pattern paper, and now I'm creating the floor using some Copic markers in cool gray colors. Here I'm using C5 marker to make the floor lines. I'm using 1 point perspective here to create these lines to make my scene look dimensional. And I don't really fuss about these lines to be straight. I like them more hand-drawn, if you understand what I mean. I think these gives a more organic look, which I really like. Here I'm using my C7 marker and adding shadows and making those floor lines a little more darker. Next I'm going with my C3 and trying to blend the C7, but I should have actually gone with my C5 first and blended out C7, which I will do in few moments. So here you can see I realized that I had grabbed C3 instead of C5. So I just grabbed my C5 and I started blending the C7. Once done, I'll use my C3 marker and blend that C5. But I quickly realized that my cool gray markers are almost all dried up, especially the lighter ones. So here I was having a lot of trouble blending these darker colors that I already put on. And I did not want to throw away this piece after so much of work. So here I kept blending using my C00 marker. But the C00 is quite light compared to the C5 and C3. And I wasn't getting a beautiful blend here. So I tried to come in with whatever color I had in my C3 marker and tried to blend that dark shadow that I have. And it helped a little bit to blend these colors. And then I moved to C2 and I blended the colors a little bit more. And then I used C00, and lastly I used colorless blender to blend everything out. And actually the colorless blender did help quite a lot, and I got a good blend, but still I could see that stark line of C5 that I put on earlier, which was just not going away. But I was okay with it because it has gone a little lighter, and I thought when I put all the images, it will not show as much. And I learned a lesson along with it, that you should not think of coloring such a big background unless you have the Copic refills with you. And yes, once I'm done with this project, I'm first gonna go and order some Copic refills for my cool gray markers so that I don't do this again. So here you can see me, I'm going over this with my colorless blender, and you can see that line has gone a little lighter, and it actually turned out pretty well towards the end, so I'm happy about it. I used my eraser to erase the top line, and then I'll glue this white cardstock to create the baseboard for my wall. Using my ATG tool here to add some double-sided tape to this piece, and then I'll glue it to my background panel. Trimming off the excess that's hanging off the background panel using my scissors, and my background is ready. Next, I have die cut these laptop pieces from the pop-up desk die from Fawn out of silver cardstock and dark grey cardstock. And here I'm gluing the dark grey die cut behind the silver die cut, and then I'll glue another grey piece just behind to add a base for my keys to stick on. I wanted my laptop to look a little 3D. So here in those openings where the keys will go, I'm filling those areas with liquid glue, and I'll then set it aside to dry. And while it's drying, I'll work on the screen of my laptop. So I've die cut the screen part from white cardstock, and here I'm stamping the sentiment "Me Time" from the Me Time stamp set. But the sentiment completely reads "You deserve some me time." So here I'm masking off the top sentiment "You deserve some" using post-it tape, and then I'll ink up the rest of the sentiment "Me Time" using jet black ink from Fawn. And then I'll remove the post-it tape and then stamp the sentiment onto that die cut. But I did not get a very nice black crisp sentiment as I would want. So here I'm going over this sentiment using my Copic multiliner and just carefully tracing over the sentiment to get a nice crisp black sentiment. And now adding liquid glue just to the edges of this piece, gluing it behind the top part of the laptop. Next, I am gluing down the keys to the keyboard. The glue that we filled here earlier is dried a little bit, so it won't ooze out while we glue down these keys in place, and it will give just a little bit of 3D look to the keyboard. But if you like more dimension, you can actually die cut this twice or thrice and die cut 2-3 keys in one place to get that nice dimension. For the space bar, I used the silver cardstock itself, but because usually the space bars are silver only. And here I felt my keys are not dark enough, so I'm using my W9 marker to add color to all my keys. And this is how my laptop looks. Cute, right? Next, I'll work on the desk that I cut out from the same pop-up desk die from Fawn. I die cut this desk out using the white wood grain cardstock from Fawn, and here I'm reinforcing the score lines that the die makes and adding some color to the edges of the desk using Hickory Smoke Distress ink. Also adding some color where the drawers will get glued. This just adds a little bit of depth to the die cut piece, and also the wood grain texture shows a little more. Now gluing down the drawers that I die cut using teal and yellow cardstock from my stash. I die cut the doorknobs out of silver cardstock and gluing that down in place. Next, to create the frame on the wall, I die cut this piece out of mini picture frames die from Fawn. I used the square frame die from the die set. This die cuts two pieces. One is the inside square and outside scallop. So here I'm stamping the cat image from the Me Time stamp set onto the inside white die cut using jet black ink from Fawn. And I'll use some warm grey Copic markers to color this cat image. I'm using W9 Copic marker here to add shadows to the cat. Then I'll use W7 Copic marker to blend those shadows. Next, using W6 marker to blend that W7. And lastly, I'm using W4 marker and blending everything out. Added W9 to the nose of the cat. And then I'm using my black jelly roll pen to darken up the eyes and the mouth of the cat. Lastly, using my white pen to add highlights to the cat. Now I'm gluing two of the white scalloped frames together, and then on top I'll glue the yellow frame. But before that, I'm gluing this piece that the die cuts that acts as the rope or string that holds the frame on the wall, sandwiching it in between the white and the yellow die cuts. Next, gluing down the scalloped frame onto the wall. Then add some glue to the center of the frame, and first glue down a white die cut for a little bit of dimension, and then glue the die cut with cat image on it. Next, I'm creating this blackboard that I put on top of my desk, and for that I die cut this rectangle piece out of the rectangle frame from the mini frame die set from Fawn. And here I'm just coloring this whole piece with W9 Copic marker. Next, I'm using this opaque white Copic ink and adding color to this piece to give it a more chalkboard effect. I'm using my fingers to add color to the edges of these pieces. You can use any white paint that you have in hand. Here I felt that my piece was not dark enough, so I'm using my black Copic marker and adding black color to this piece, and then I'll go back and add more white paint, and I'll keep doing this until I get a look that I want. Here I added the black color once again, and then I'm adding the white towards the edges. Anytime you feel that the white is too much, you can go back with your black marker and add more black color, and then come back and add more white depending on what kind of look you're going for. Now I'll let this piece dry and move on to the next step. Here I'm gluing down the desk to my background panel, adding glue to the bottom front legs and also the behind legs, and now gluing the desk in place, making sure it's straight, gluing the front legs first, and then we'll glue the back legs. I'm gluing the desk at an angle because the width of the desk is more than the depth of my shadow box, and if I glue it straight, this will not fit in my shadow box. This is not my original idea. This was first made by Steph from World of Papercraft. Now I'm gluing down the laptop on the desk. Now to glue down the blackboard, I'm adding some cardstock behind it to give a little bit of dimension to the blackboard. I added 2 layers of scrap cardstock behind this blackboard. And before gluing it in place, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment on it. I'm white heat embossing a sentiment, Pamper Yourself, from the Time to Relax stamp set from Not Too Shabby Shop April Box of the Month kit. I have first prepped my surface with anti-static powder tool, and now I'll stamp the sentiment using clear ink from Simon Says Stamp. Then I'll pour white embossing powder on top of the stamped sentiment. Tap off the excess, then heat set it using my heat tool. Now I'll keep this aside and work on the images to go on my layout. Most of these images are from the Me Time stamp set from Not Too Shabby Shop, and I've stamped these using Fawn jet black ink on a Copic friendly cardstock. Here I'm coloring the couch. I'm using BG49 as my darkest color and adding shadows wherever needed. I wanted this layout to be black and white with pops of color, and I wanted the colors to be teal and yellow, the same colors that I used to die cut the drawers from for my desk. So you'll see me using these two colors to color most of my images. Here I'm blending the BG49 using BG15 Copic marker, and lastly coming in with BG53 as my lightest marker and blending everything out. Here I use the same colors to color the plant pot. Next, to color the pillow that goes on the couch, I'm using Y15 and Y02 Copic markers. To color the plant, I'm using YG markers. I'm using YG17 as my darkest marker and then blending that out using YG13. I mostly use 2 shades per color to color all these images here. Since I added this green color because of the plant to my scene, I used the same green color to color the lamp. This lamp image is from the N2S 10 stamp set from Fawn. And then using the Y markers to color the shade of the lamp. I used Y15, Y02 and Y00 Copic markers to color the shade. Next, I'll use these 3 colors to color the stack of books here, keeping in the same color combination. I colored these 2 stacks of book, but I ended up using only one of them in my scene. Using warm grey markers to color the pages of the books. For the open book here that the girl will be reading in the scene, I used the same BG markers to color it. Now for this girl image, I stamped it a little lightly than rest of the images because I wanted to add some shading to her hair too. And if I had double stamped it to get a crisp image, I won't be able to do any shading because I'll end up with a very black image. So here I'm first coloring her skin. I'm using some E markers here. I used E13 as my darkest marker, added shadows using that, then blended that using E11 and lastly came in with E01 as my lightest marker and blended everything out. Adding blush to her cheeks using RV52. I colored her headphones using the same Y markers and now coloring her pant using the same YG markers. For her shirt, I did not want to use any teal color because I was feeling that it was too much, so I decided to use the warm grey markers. I used W7, W6 and W1 Copic markers to color her shirt. Now to add some details to her hair, I'm using my 100 marker, which is the black marker, and going over the hair using circular motions to add that nice wavy look to the hair. I also retouched her eyebrows and eyes and lips, and that just makes this whole image pop out. Now adding highlights using my white pen. I really liked how she turned out. Lastly, coloring this rug that I stamped from the Christmas Dreams stamp set from Fawn. I was not able to decide what color to use here, so I ended up using both the teal and the yellow color. I did not do any shading here, but just used one marker per color family and added colors alternatively in oval shape. I die cut all these images using my scan and cut, and now I'll glue them in place to finish my layout. I glued down the chalkboard using some liquid glue. Now gluing down the girl using some foam tape. To glue the book near her, I added some foam tape and liquid glue to glue it down. Next, gluing the stack of books near her using some foam tape. I've already glued down the rug near the desk. Now gluing down the plant between the desk and the couch using some foam tape. Added some double-sided tape behind the pillow and gluing it to the couch, and gluing the couch using some liquid glue to the panel. And that is it. Off camera, I added highlights to all my images, and this is how my layout looks. I'm in love with this shadow box. It's such a nice thing to create if you want to take a break from making cards. It doesn't take a lot of effort to make it, and it's a perfect gift to gift it to someone. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more crafty videos. I upload new videos every week. And also don't forget to check out the Not Too Shabby Shop April Box of the Month kit. It has some amazing products that you don't want to miss. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.